Okay, let's dive into a story that is absolutely shaking up the global energy market, and it all centers on one country, Venezuela.
And no, we're not talking about a new piece of tech or some random market dip. This is a full-blown geopolitical earthquake, and the epicenter is Venezuela's huge and for a long time dormant oil reserves.
So you might be asking, how on earth did this happen? And so fast? Well, to get it, we really need to look at the timeline.
I mean, look at this. In the span of just 3 days, the entire game changed. The U.S. military intervenes, takes out the Venezuelan president, and then announces this energy trusteeship. It's basically a plan for American companies to pour billions into rebuilding the country's completely shattered oil industry.
And you better believe Wall Street heard that starting gun loud and clear. This move kicked off an absolute investment frenzy. They're calling it the rebuilding trade, and it instantly created a new class of winners, practically overnight.
So the market reaction basically split into these 4 main plays. First, you've got the first mover. That's Chevron, who's already there. Then you have the re-entry plays, companies like Exxon and ConocoPhillips, who are, let's be honest, looking to get back what's theirs. After that come the mechanics. Think Halliburton and SLB, the boots on the ground who will do the actual hard work. And finally, and this is really interesting, the surprise winners, U.S. refiners who are just perfectly built to handle this exact type of oil.
Let's talk about Chevron for a second, because they are in a league of their own here. They have a massive head start. Why? Simple. They never left. They've been chugging along under a special government license, pumping out about 200,000 barrels a day. That means they have people, they have equipment, they have know-how, they're ready to hit the ground running while everyone else is still figuring out how to get their foot in the door.
But all this excitement on Wall Street is about to slam headfirst into a very, very harsh reality. Venezuela's oil industry hasn't just been mismanaged. People on the ground describe it as literally rotting away after 2 decades of neglect.
And the scale of this problem, it's just staggering. I mean, look at this number. Analysts figure it could take up to $100 billion to get the industry back on its feet. This is not about just flipping a switch. It's a colossal undertaking.
And here's a big reason why that price tag is so astronomical. This isn't the light, sweet crude you hear about from Texas or Saudi Arabia. Oh no, this is extra heavy, sour crude. I want you to think less like oil and more like tar or asphalt. It's so thick and gunky it has to be mixed with lighter stuff just to get it to flow through a pipeline. And it needs these enormous, highly specialized plants called upgraders to process it before you can even think about exporting.
So what does a $100 billion repair job actually look like? Well, the to-do list it's just mind-boggling. You're talking about going out and fixing thousands upon thousands of individual wells, rebuilding entire pipeline networks, the export terminals, the power grid that feeds all of it, and then you have to restore those giant rusting upgrader plants. It's not a quick project. This is a multi-year, top-to-bottom industrial revival.
So, with all these problems, why would anyone even bother? Well, this right here, this is the answer. It's the ultimate prize. Despite all the challenges, Venezuela is sitting on the world's largest proven oil reserves, more than Saudi Arabia. Let that sink in for a second. That's why the industry is willing to roll the dice on a $100 billion bet.
Okay, so let's play this out. If they actually pull this off, the ripple effects are going to be felt everywhere. This could literally redraw the global energy map, creating a whole new lineup of winners and losers.
And this chart tells you everything you need to know. It is all about the gap. Right now, Venezuela is barely pumping out 1 million barrels a day. At its best, it was doing over 3 million. Closing that gap means unleashing millions of barrels of new supply onto the world market.
And what happens when all that oil comes online? Well, it sets up a classic zero-sum game, especially right here in North America. Here's the deal. Those big, complex refineries on the U.S. Gulf Coast, they were literally designed to process this exact type of Venezuelan heavy crude. For them, it's perfect, a cheaper, closer source. But if you're a heavy oil producer up in Canada, this is your worst nightmare. You are now in direct competition, and you risk getting squeezed out of your single biggest market.
Okay, so all of this, the geopolitics, the rebuilding, the winners and losers, it all leads to the biggest risk of all. A risk that hits not just oil companies, but potentially the entire global economy.
Look, it comes down to the most basic economics, right? Supply and demand. If you suddenly dump millions of new barrels of oil onto the market every single day, you could create a massive supply glut. Goldman Sachs is already putting out warnings, saying a successful comeback in Venezuela could put serious long-term downward pressure on oil prices.
And that leaves us and the entire market with this one massive, provocative question. When you finally unlock the world's largest oil reserves after 2 decades of chaos and decay, do you also unleash the next great global oil price crash?
That's it for today, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. Join our community of fellow investors over in the Let's Talk Money Discord. It's where we share ideas in real time. Just tap the link in the show notes to jump in, and I'll see you in the server.